Hi everyone. In the last session, we talked about how you can set up INGenious in 5 minutes, how you can set up in local, how you can download the executables, and after the download, this is how the folder structure look like. Now, as a next step, what we are going to talk about how to use INGenious, why it looks like a low-code, no-code solution, how we can use the IDE, what the look and feel of the IDE is. So we are going to talk about that in this session. To start the IDE, there is a run.bat file. Just double click on that to open the IDE. So after clicking on run.bat file, it's going to open INGenious Playwright Studio. If you're opening for first time, it might ask you to create a project, or it might ask you to open the existing project, which is like a sample project. So once the IDE is open, this is what you see here. Now, if you go back, if you would like to understand the whole navigation around the IDE, you can refer to the page which contains all the information about how the IDE looks like. So we are going to go through the IDE in very brief. So if you look at the INGenious IDE, it's divided into different sections and pane and the icons. So there is a setting options and there are execution options. If you look at the setting options, it's more on like how can you configure, how you create your project, how you create your test plan, how to save the data, and other setting informations. But on the execution option, it's more on how do you execute the test cases, how do you debug, how do you set up your test steps, and how do you use like refresh, or if you would like to delete a step or add a step. So these are the icons on the execution option side of it. If you scroll a bit, this is how the ID is going to look like, and I see it's pretty much numbered like different into different sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This section is more on where you can create your project and you can create your scenarios and test cases. These are the reusable components. Say, for example, you have a login scenario and you would like to use that login scenario for multiple test cases. So instead of writing repeatable steps, you can create those as a reusable and use that reusable component into your multiple test cases. So we'll talk about how we can use these reusable actions or components. On the middle screen, you see number 3 is more on where you write your test cases. So you will have an option to select different archetypes here under the object name. Say, for example, if you'd like to write test cases for UI, or like a browser-related test cases, if you'd like to write test cases for API, mobile, database, or Kafka-related, so that will fall under the object name. This pane is mainly where you write your test steps and the details. You can write in this section. So action column contains your actions, basically, like which you'd like to perform on that particular object. So say, for example, you have a browser, you would like to open a browser, so the action will be open. We'll go through that when I open the IDE. You will see different options available there, which we can talk about it a bit more in details. Then there are inputs, conditions, and references. Inputs will be more what kind of test data you'd like to pass on for that action and for that object. Conditions will be, are there certain conditions you would like to add and for that particular step. So you can mention those here. In the number 4 is more of maintaining your test data. So if you'd like to run your test cases across the environments, you can see there are different tabs you can create in by clicking on the plus icon, and it contains your scenario name, your flow name, and you can specify a number of iterations and sub iterations as well. This is primarily like a test data, how we can manage here across the test environments, and there is a default. If you don't specify any environment name, it's going to be default here. Apart from that, the right hand side, this is object repository, which is marked as number 4. So say, for example, you have a login, you're doing a login scenario testing, and there is a user name field where you would like to input some text as a username. You need to identify that username input text box. So that will get stored, that identification of that object will get stored under the object repository. However, there is another section which is properties. So how you are identifying that username text box associated property will fall under property section. Say, for example, it's identified by ID, it's identified by label, or it's identified by any other types, that identification will fall under properties. So once we go through the actual ID, you will see the difference here. You will see what all different options are coming through. So this is pretty much on the IDE side. On the test case side, as you're creating, just to highlight that it's pretty much stores your test cases into a folder structure. Like as you create your project, or you call as a test plan, when you're creating your scenario names and then you're creating your test cases, the underlying structure, if you see, it's kind of a folder structure only, and the data gets stored into .csv file only. Before we go further, say for example, you would like to see different options available on the scenarios and the test case levels, like you right click and you see different options. If you are on a scenario, you can rename your scenario, you can delete a scenario, or you can add your test case. If you would like to export your data to a file, which is like supported file is .csv, you can right click and export as CSV also. You can copy, cut, paste, all these are standard actions available here. Along with that, if you would like to get a command line syntax, that how you can execute your test and scenarios via the command line, the tool does provide you that option as well. So it'll give you command line syntax so you can execute test from the command line. Apart from that, the test execution pane, I think let's pause it here and have a look at the actual ID, how it looks like, how do you write your simple test case, and then you will understand all the details we have discussed on the INGenious Playwright Studio side of it, and how in ID you can actually write a small test case and understand the details a bit more from the practical side of it. So let's have a look at the INGenious Playwright Studio IDE now. So in this case, I have some existing project created with the scenarios. So what I will do is let's delete the existing scenarios here. And so this is what you see now. Let's start from scratch. Say, for example, I already have a project, but if you'd like to create a new project, you can click on this icon and you can specify your project name, as I've called out previously. In some of the sessions, you create a project and it's added here. It will open that project automatically. So I'm already in the project. I would like to create a new scenario. So right click on that, say add a scenario, and I would like to rename the scenario as well. So right click on the scenario name and say it's UI navigation. I would like to test. So let's correct the spelling here. UI navigation. Now, as part of UI navigation, I would like to add a test case. So you right click on scenario, click on add test case, and the test case gets added. You see that the middle screen is one row created here. I would like to rename the test case. So right click on the test case, rename test case, and say you navigate to URL. Navigate to URL. That's a simple test case I would like to write. So now I have created a test case name, and I would like to write the steps. So to write the steps, it needs to be done in the middle pane. You have to select, go under the object name, and once you click on that, you will see there are different objects names being displayed. So these are the archetypes we talked about that you can test via INGenious. You can test your browsers, you can test your mobile, web services, database, Kafka, queue, or you can do a synthetic data generation, as well as if you'd like to test the files, you can use the file as well. We will go with the simple test case. Let's start with the browser testing. So I selected object name as browser. Now, what I would like to do on this browser, that I would like to navigate to or open a browser basically. So I select this option as open, but at the same time, you can see there are different actions being created which you would like to perform. You can select those options or actions from here. For now, let's go with a simple test case that I would like to open a browser. Input, as I mentioned, this is a test area you have to specify. So which URL I would like to go for. So at the rate as is a test data. And let's put a simple test case here. Say I would like to navigate to google.com to be very simple navigation step. There's no condition, no references. Now, how do I execute this test case. So before even you do that, you need to save, use the save icon here. We talked about these in the screenshot, that how these navigation icons looks like. So this is mainly a recorder. You can start the recording if you'd like to capture some actions. This is a run button here if you'd like to debug your test case. If you'd like to add or remove steps, say for example I would like to add another step here, so this row gets added. If I don't want, I can remove as well. And this is up and down arrow is to restructure your test steps, like move some steps up and down. So you can use these arrow keys. This is mainly reload page. We'll see where this action comes into play. For now, we'll skip that. And the last one is if you'd like to open a system editor. So for now, I think it's a simple test case. What do we need to know is in which web browser we would like to run this test case on. So if you go to run button, you right click, and you see there are different options being provided. If you'd like to run the test in the Chromium browsers, WebKit, Firefox, you can select either the options. I'm selecting Chromium for now. No browser options is applicable if you're writing, say, for example, API test or any backend test you're writing, you don't need to open the browser. So in that case, you can select no browser option as well. Before we go and execute, you would like to see the one of the critical aspect is, do I want to run the browser in headless mode or headed? So to see all those configuration details, what you can do is you go to configuration and you go to the browser configuration. It's going to open this pane here, and you see there are different configuration options being provided. So it's like you're setting your options. Those options can be set from here. So yeah, we would like to set the details for the browser. So go to manage browsers, and you see this headless set headless is set up as a false at this point. That means it's going to be like headed browser. The test is going to be in headed mode. But if I say I don't want to run to start with, I would like to run just the command line, I don't want to open the browser. So it's a headless browser test I would like to run on, set as a true here. You can set up your default timeout, and there are other details which will come in a second. So save these options. Once you have saved, you don't get any confirmation. You just click on save and assume the data gets saved. If you're not sure, what you can do is you go again, configurations, browser configurations, and make sure the changes are applied. So in this case, I said true and it's applied. So that's good. How do I execute? Just click on run button. Don't worry about the test data here because it's just a navigation. We are inputting the data here only. Once you click on the run button, what it's going to do, if you see this black icon, this is mainly the console. Because since we have set up that it's going to run in a headless mode, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So you can open this console and can see what exactly it's going to execute as steps. So if you look at the console logs, it's running iteration 1. By default, iteration is 1. It's launching Chromium, it's launching local driver, and then it's open, it's step 1, which is like open URL. And then it's just a tear down. Basically, it's closed for iteration 1, and it's just putting a summary here, like what are the execution steps. Number 1, failed and pass. So it's saying pass. It will always pass, since at this case we haven't actually put any assertions. So it says pass, and then you can see the other execution details. Also, you see where the reports are getting generated. So this is where the report is getting generated. If you'd like to have a look at the report, you can go to that location, or once the test is finished, the report gets open automatically. So this is how the report is going to look like. So if you look at the top section, it's talking about the start time and end time of the test, total duration, and it contains the details report as well. So we have just added one simple test case, which is navigate to URL, and it's running in a Chromium browser, and the status it's going to provide here. If it does, also it's like putting a browser version as well, and on which platform it is running currently. So if you go to navigate to URL, it will give you detailed steps on which URL you have used to execute the test case, and what's the status. If there are many more steps and there are assertions, you will see the details here with those steps and the attachments and screenshots as well. We'll go in a while in terms of adding assertions and then see how the screenshots are being captured here. You can also, in the similar location, same location, you can look at the logs and other information as well. That's pretty much about the reporting. Let's go back to IDE and try to add an assertion. So if you go to google.com, what exactly you would like to assert on. So let me just open google.com. So if I just don't navigate to the URL here, and I go back and say, hey, google.com, and you see a screen like this. Now, you would like to inspect an element, or you would like to assert on something. You need to find a text here. Say, for example, it's a Google search. You're finding that its input class value is Google search, name is button, role is button, and type is submit. So if you would like to test that there is a button, there are two buttons here on this particular screen, and both of them contains a type submit. So you need to find input value equal to I am feeling lucky. So go back to your IDE and say, how can you add an assertion? So you just add a row here. So after adding the row, you would like to add an assertion on that particular text. So what you can do, as we saw, there was no specific um, like a locator which you can use in this case. So if I go back to say google.com, open it again, inspect, and I'm trying to inspect this on this particular text, right? So if you look at that, you would like to search a text here because there is no specific um, locator which you can use here, which can identify different information except the text in here. So what you can use, let's try to use like a role here. So role is, if you go back to your INGenious studio, and then in this you say search text basically, right? Say search text, right? You need to have that as an object here. So either you can put that as here, or you can do add a page and give a page name as anything, or you can leave the default one as well. Say Google search text, right? So this is your page name, and then what you can do is add an object. So this object name and this object name going to be same. So you can say rename object, and I'll put like a same name here, search text, for example. Um, and this one and this one should be same, so I just remove that. Or what I can do is let's remove that row, add another row. I can drag and drop as well. So I say search text, and what is the action I would like to do here is I would like to assert this search text element and say contains a text. So contains a text, you can put ignore case, or you can just put it like that. And the text what we got from there was basically, if you go here, it's I'm feeling lucky. So you can copy that value from here. So you're searching for a value into that particular object. So search text with this text, like the search box contains a text like this. Now you need to define, like we have added an object, but you need to define a property here. So I'm using a role as, say for example, search, because I'm just looking to search that text here. Now I have added assertion, and let's try to save and try to run it again. So once you execute the test, you can open this pane because I'm running in a headless mode. So you can see it's executed via the command lines. And now you see there is another step being added here, which is searching a text which contains I am feeling lucky. If you would like to add another assertion on the other text, you can do that as well. But let's have a look at the report and see how it is different, like before and now. So let me bring in the report again into from this location. So I'll copy that path and I go to URL open that report. And now if I go to navigate URL, you will see there are two steps. So these two steps are what coming from the test cases you have written. And the second step is, it says, it contains a text as I'm feeling lucky. So if you click on this pass, you see it's highlighted. Now it is highlighting that particular box where the text is being displayed, like it's highlighting I'm feeling lucky. So you can see a scenario where if the test case fails, like if I go back to IDE and here I just enter something like the incorrect text. So if you go and execute the same test again, it takes a while. You can have a look at the logs to see what's happening behind the scene, and its object being identified with role equal to search, and you see that test case is failed here with lots of information. um, Now how do you again have a look at the logs? So if you go back here, uh, like look at the report which is being generated here, you need to open this URL because every time it's appending the date and time, if you see here. So you need to open the correct report. So in this case, if I just close this one up, the status is failed because the text is incorrect. So if you go here, it says I'm feeling lucky. The actual text is, it's not displaying because it didn't find it. However, I'm expecting, like, it is just it should display the actual text, but we are not doing an assertion what the actual text is going to be, but it's displaying the screenshots. You can open the screenshot and see that way the text is different. So on this screen there is no text as I'm feeling lucky 3. So you can see the failed scenarios here, and the previous one we saw the past scenario. That is how your test case gets executed, the report gets generated, and like you can write manual steps as well. Apart from that, there's another one which is a recorder. Give it a try. Instead of writing all these steps, what you can do is you can use the recorder to record and play the initial steps. So we will cover that details into next session. So thank you so much for now.